What's good, family? What's good, family? Chief Joiners Live. Thank you all for joining me. I am sorry for the rescheduling of this stream. I had to reschedule it last week because I didn't have enough time to bring out the information. You know, I've been really busy, but I'm here today. Okay, today's the 30th of October, Halloween Day. We celebrate Halloween today, and you know, things are going crazy, you know, in the world in regards to Africa. Okay, the whole isms, you know, about Russia calling the All Africa Summit last week. Okay, and all the African heads of states participated. You know, we know Russia is indeed a power balance, you know, to the West. Russia has their own technology. They have their own scientists that are very, very innovative, and you know, they have their own. They built their own technology from scratch. Okay, so the West has nothing on Russia. They can, you know, do everything or anything they want by themselves. Elm City, thanks for joining the stream. Peace to you, sister. Yeah, so we it's not last week. I in my stream I told you that, you know, Russia's relationship with Africa is nothing new. It's been going on ever since. Okay, African countries started gaining independence, and believe it or not, Russia was involved. Okay, in the process of African countries gaining independence, i.e., they provided them weapons, okay, to fight, especially the French and the British and stuff like that. So Russia has always been very, very instrumental when it comes to Africa, right? All the wars in Africa, you know, there's always, you know, a portion, or there's always information about how Russia is involved in some way, factional form. That primarily Russia supplies arms, okay, to keep the balance in civil wars and stuff like that. Okay, Russia has always been part of it. All right, and also giving Africans loans in infrastructural development, healthcare, and stuff like that. Russia has always been part of it. Okay, Russia was part of it in the form of the former USSR. Okay, which is nothing more than Russia currently, except for the other states that broke away from the USSR. We know in 1991, okay, the Soviet Union collapsed and gave birth to the Russian Federation, and or the country that we know as Russia. And fast forward into 2019, Shaka, thanks for joining the streaming, family. Peace to you. Peace to you. Fast forward into 2019, you know, Vladimir Putin has been very, very instrumental. We know Putin was also involved in the former government of the USSR as a KGB, okay, agent, posted to Western Germany, Okay, and this man is not a little man. Okay, despite his stature. Okay, he's a very, very intelligent and a very, very smart man. Ukraine, Ukraine broke away from Russia, but Russia wants Ukraine back. Okay. Yeah, Niger boy, shout out to you, family. Carol C, peace, peace, family. Yeah. So fast forward into 2019. Okay, Russia has been very, very, instrumental in the balance of power that we see in 2019. Other than that, okay, the United States will or would have overrun the entire planet with their ideology and their philosophy of governments or government or governance. Okay, which we all know that it's a failed system. Okay, democracy is nothing more than democracy. Okay, today's topic is tied in with democracy, how the African democracy has failed Africans, how socialism is the only way forward for Africa, has been a way of the past of Africans. Okay, and it will only be the only form of government that is meaningful to the African. And tying this in with the main topic, which is Gaddafi's Libya, the fall of Gaddafi's Libya, and how the Western leaders lust for exploiting Africa, okay, is tied in with it. So Putin has been very instrumental. Again, I say that in terms of keeping global power balance. The Africa will no longer be running to the West for development and aid and whatnot. They can reach out to China and Russia, and the competition is on. Okay, the competition is on. It's like when you have something that everybody needs, everybody else will compete. Everybody else will fight just to get to you to be your supplier or your business partner. And this is what we are seeing here going forward. Africa has everything the world needs, right? So in terms of natural resources and especially people resources, that's why they came to subjugate Africa for the most, extract everything they wanted from Africa, and including Africa's young people. Okay, leaving a void of young people in Africa for centuries, almost 500 years, right? So let's see who else is here. All right, okay. So last week, Russia called the first ever Africa summit, calling all the African heads of states. They all went there, and it's intriguing that the whole world sees Africa as one single entity. Okay, but Africans do not see that. Okay, they are beginning to see that in the form of the African Union, which has an agenda for the year 2063. It is a long way from now. Okay, it's another 40 years to come. Okay, we kind of wait. We want African unity now because the whole world is seeing Africa as one. Okay, together, collectively, we have a GDP of over $1 trillion. Okay, that's a force to reckon with. But single countries in Africa, like Ghana, having GDP of $44 billion, that's nothing. That's nothing. You can't compete anywhere. Africa's intra-trade is only 18%. When they have external trade being over 80%, okay, it's not viable. Okay, it's not feasible at all in terms of global growth and development. All right, so the talk of the African unity, okay, started in the 60s or even prior to that, during the independence movement, when a whole lot of the African countries started gaining independence, or always the countries, states created by the British and the French and Europeans in the during the Berlin Conference in 1884 and 1885. Okay, they divided Africa into like farmlands, and they're like, hey, here, put different ethnic groups in one entity and call them states, okay, or territories. So these people coming out of these territories began fighting for independence. And one of such is Ghana. Okay, Ghana is no more than a little over 60 years old, and South Africa is only about less than 28. Let's see, 1994, about 25 years old. Okay, so you have countries as young as South Africa trying to compete with countries like the United States, England, and stuff like that. I mean, it can't work. It cannot work. So people like Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had a vision that the only way Africa can keep up with the speed at which the world is moving is to unite. Okay, and he stated that today the freedom of Africa, okay, the independence of Africa, tomorrow the United States of Africa. Okay, this is what Nkrumah's vision is. But subsequently, okay, we have people that are now termed Africans, okay, who like to do the bidding of the Europeans, who always want to be slaves to the Europeans, sabotaged Nkrumah's development and other African heads of states plans like Patrice Lumumba and Thomas Sankara and stuff like that. And a whole lot of these efforts were taken out, okay, and by the West primarily, okay, the French, the Canadians, the British, okay, and the United States or the United Snakes. Okay, so I do have some articles that I'll present to you, but I want to talk a little bit about Gaddafi's situation. Okay, Gaddafi was no different to. We recently saw the death of Robert Mugabe, what happened to his country, and the approach he took to maintain his dignity as an African, not to sell out, to the Europeans and stuff like that, and what they did to the economic woes of his country and stuff like that. Okay, similarly, they did it to Muammar Gaddafi. At the time of Muammar Gaddafi's presidency or leadership, okay, Libya was the most prosperous African country. Okay, the most prosperous African country. Okay, they had about 95% of the GDP. Okay, or their revenue, national revenue, comes from petrol, which they have natural resources, which they have in abundance. Okay, I think Libya has the biggest oil reserve in Africa, right? So Gaddafi always puts his money, okay, where his mouth is. Okay, he knew exactly what he was doing. Gaddafi was actually a very, very smart person. He actually wrote a book called the Green Book. If you heard of the book, the name, the Green Book, Muammar Gaddafi wrote that book, and I will talk a bit about that in the coming moments. Okay, but at the time of Gaddafi, okay, there was free education. Gaddafi understood that education is paramount. Okay, it's paramount to the development of a society, of any society. Gaddafi also believed that the democracy which the West believes in or practices is not ideal for Africa. But democracy, he wanted to institute his own form of democracy, which he outlined in the Green Book, which I'll share with you in a moment. Okay, he believed that the natural resources of a country and its revenues and benefits belongs to the people. So to the extent that all the revenues that come from say it comes from actually petrol, and saying that Libya's natural resource is oil, crude oil, and Gaddafi was able to tap into Libya's natural resource at a rate of 100% to benefit its population. Whereas you have a country like Ghana, okay, you have uranium, you have manganese, you have bauxite, you have forests, you have timber, you have arable lands, you have cocoa, you have oil, Ghana has everything. Okay, this is a shame. Ghana has everything, you name it, gold, number one producer of gold in the world. Okay, it's Ghana. But a population of 30 million people. But yet, people of Ghana, the leadership of Ghana, cannot tap into any single natural resource in Ghana to maximize productivity and development. It's a shame. So you can see that the extent of puppets leadership in Africa is mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling. So in the case of Libya, okay, Gaddafi was able to utilize the single natural resource, which is crude oil, and maximize it to the rate of 100% return, and even creating surplus. Okay, and he had, with his principle, which he aligned in his green book, okay, the revenue from the crude oil belongs to the people. So the people have free education. Okay, pregnant women were not allowed to go to work. Any woman who's had a child is no longer allowed to go to work in Libya. Okay, a mother must never work. This is the philosophy of and not only a philosophy, it was a principle put into government. Okay, by Muammar Gaddafi. What else? He also believed that real estate is redundant. Okay, he believes that if you live in a house, you must own it. He doesn't believe in renting homes and rental properties. He does not advocate for capitalism. Okay, he believed that everyone should be a homeowner, free education for all, and when you graduate with a university degree, you would be paid your salary as if you were working until you find yourself a job. Where else would you have such a system? It's not even practiced in the West, in the West, but it was practiced in Africa under Muammar Gaddafi. He also believed that the revenues from crude oil, everybody gets a share. So at the end of the quarter or whatever, okay, everybody gets a paycheck from the oil revenues. Where else do you get that? I think there's another country that does that. I think Bolivia, and I'm not too sure about Venezuela, because Venezuela also practices a form of socialism which the West actually crippled, because Venezuela also has one of the world's biggest crude oil reserves. But of course, the United States had to go and destabilize our country before our very eyes. Okay, a lot of us are old enough to remember these things, especially Venezuela was just recent, I think last year, and it's still going on. And at the start of the year, the United States staged a coup d'etat in Venezuela, and there's still unrest. And now we have in Chile as well. Things are going haywire in Chile. But yeah, back to Gaddafi. Okay, what Gaddafi was doing, okay, the West hated it. It wasn't good for capitalism, which the West practiced. So they had to find ways and means to take out Gaddafi. They had to find ways and means to take out Gaddafi. But as the saying goes in Africa, okay, before something can actually harm you, okay, it has to do with the enemy within. You have to let it. Okay, you as an individual or as a people or African people, okay, are responsible for your own demise. Okay, you're responsible for your own downfall. Okay, be it that one, you refuse to be educated, you refuse to progress, you refuse to innovate, you refuse to let go of religion, which is a tool of oppression. Okay, and you refuse to reform. Okay, and above all, you refuse to unite and love one another. Okay, what we saw happen in Libya was at the hands of the French and the United States, NATO. Okay, but also a greater portion is to do with with Libyans themselves by falling for the bait. Okay, they fell for the bait. They killed brutally on national TV. We all saw the images brutally. How could you possibly kill somebody so mercilessly, like they did on national TV, to a president who actually, or a leader who actually helped build Libya? Some people say when before Gaddafi, okay, Libya was a desert. Gaddafi turned Libya into an oasis. Gaddafi actually planted forests, changed the river systems and made the biggest irrigation system ever on the face of the planet. Muammar Gaddafi did this, transformed Libya, right, to the most, progressive country on the continent, despite them being Islamic and stuff like that. And so there were a lot of issues factors that led to the downfall of Gaddafi, and one because he wasn't loved enough by his people. There were people that loved him. His loyalists also became a target after Muammar Gaddafi was ousted in this second Libyan civil war. Okay, that's when you see all the black Libyans being enslaved and stuff like that. And Libya has indigenous black people. Okay, they're called Tuaregs or Berbers or both. Okay, the indigenous black people in Libya. And in fact, the entire continent of Africa was actually once black. The entire history of the world was black until the mutation of the lighter skin and the migration patterns and the reverse migration and stuff like that back into Africa and stuff. All this is documented. Okay, all this is documented. So the second Libyan civil war led to the enslavement of black Libyans. We saw the famous images and videos of black Libyans being tied to the machine guns and they're driving around. We saw we saw videos of guns pointed or put to the head of black Libyans and saying Arabic words, meaning translating to Libyan dogs, only because these were Gaddafi's loyalists. And if you trace the history of Gaddafi, Gaddafi is actually a son of Africa. He's not an Arab. Okay, Gaddafi's grandparents were actually from like Chad or Niger or something like that. Okay, they were actually Tuaregs. Okay, and Libya borders Mali, borders Niger, borders Chad, and even borders Sudan. Okay, so these people are one people. So one thing that can, or raise eyebrows to what happened to Muammar Gaddafi was that they treated him and they killed him like he was not a human being. They treated him like a dog, basically. And from the videos that I saw where they were calling black Libyans dogs, Libyan dogs, they must have hated the fact that Muammar Gaddafi is actually black, is actually a son of Africa. Okay, so we have a percentage of people or residue of people who were of Turkish, Ottoman Turkish descent throughout North Africa, but these people are only a handful of people. I would say less than 20%. But then when you look at South Africa, less than 8% control the national wealth of the country. Europeans, that is. So these people who are of Turkish or Arabian descent, or even in Arabia, the original people in Arabia were actually black Africans. But then because of the influence of Turkish Ottoman Empire, and similarly Egypt and wherever else, okay, Sudan and that, okay, it led to the the phenotype change and stuff like that, and a lot of people being actually mixed. It's no different to the United States, where you have an average African American being at least 30 to 40% of European ancestry. Okay, This is what's going on in Libya, and led to Gaddafi's demise and him being brutally murdered, and his son was also brutally murdered as well. So so ultimately, I'm saying that Muammar Gaddafi was ousted by the West primarily, but also because of his own people that hated him, the enemy within. Okay, there was the unity, or the unity was fragmented in the end, and Libyans were divided between black and white, or between color lines, and black people are. Truth of the matter is, black people are being enslaved. Darker skinned people are being enslaved to the point where what's his name? Um, Paul Kagame is being given money to take back all these black Libyans and put them to good purpose in Rwanda. So I think I've done enough rambling on. I hope you guys have had enough information there. But I'll put all this information into proper context with some of the articles and information that I have. And yeah, so I will share my screen now. Okay, I'll share my screen now. If you saw from the thumbnail, okay, we know what Hillary Clinton or Killary Clinton did. Okay, this is nothing new now, and I'm so glad that she didn't become president of the United States. Else, you would have seen similar things happening throughout the African continent. You would have seen Paul Kagame probably gone, Magufuli probably gone. All these, influential leaders in Africa would be ousted. Okay, under what's her name? Hillary. Okay, Hillary Clinton's power. So thankfully, okay, we have the idiot in office. Okay, Mr. Trump, Mr. Donald Duck. Okay, in office. He's really great for Africa. Okay. He's actually causing white supremacy to implode, and this is what we love. Okay, this is what we want in the advancement of Africa. All right. So one more thing I wanted to point out that with Russia's involvement in Africa. Okay, Russia has decided to forgive over 20 was it 20 million, $20 billion. Lost my figures now. Hang on a minute. I just gone blank now. Sorry, family. Just gone blank. Okay, 20 billion. Okay, I'm sorry. So Russia has decided to forgive over $20 billion. Okay, in debt owed by African governments, and all these debts were owed during the Soviet days of Russia. So prior to 1991, when Russia actually became a new country after Ukraine and Latvia and all these countries left the Soviet Union, Afghanistan and stuff like that. And we know it was all the instrument and doing of the United States. Okay. This is nothing new. So Russia forgave $20 billion. In return, Russia is expecting that Africa does more trade deals with Russia, and also Russia proposed nuclear deals. Okay, nuclear power plant deals with Africa. The first deal signed was with Egypt. Okay, was with Egypt during the African Summit, Africa-Russia Summit, or Russia-African Summit. And then later on, I think about 18 African countries have now signed for nuclear energy. And I'll iterate that nuclear energy is only I'll say a cheap alternative to solving or a convenient, not cheap, but a convenient alternative to solving Africa's energy needs. But Africa is blessed with so much sunlight, and a desert, Sahara Desert, which can house a lot of solar panels. Even aside that, okay, Africa is blessed with the world's biggest rivers. We're talking about the Volta, we're talking about the Niger, we're talking about the Congo, we're talking about the Nile, and even Victoria Falls alone. The amount of water that falls out of the Victoria Falls is enough to generate enough electricity for the whole southern region of Africa. Okay, there's no reason why, and again, I'll make this into another topic probably tomorrow. Okay, there's no reason why Africa cannot innovate and maximize their natural resources. You can burn fossil fuel. Go ahead and burn fossil fuel. Okay, they want to straight away jump into creating nuclear energy when you haven't even gone through the process of industrialization. And it started with hydroelectricity and then burning of coal and fossil fuels and stuff like that. Okay, Australia, a population of 25 million people. Okay, and a land size probably 10 times, smaller than Africa. Okay, has a GDP bigger than all the African countries put together. How is this possible? And Africa and Australia has no nuclear plants. Australia has no nuclear plants at all. But things are happening things are happening in a very, very fast pace, and it's very necessary that Africa takes Africa keeps up. So it looks like Africa is going to jump the industrial revolution process and straight away get into on par with global development and sustainability and stuff like that. But nuclear energy is great, but the only problem is, okay, you're going to be destroying the Congo to mine uranium. You're going to be destroying all the forests to mine uranium, which Africa has in abundance. Also, you're going to be facing the threat of or the desire to develop nuclear weapons, and then you're going to be facing the threat from the United States when it comes to sanctions. Right now, we know what's happening to Iran. Iran has a ton of uranium, which they've started to enrich and to develop nuclear weapons and stuff like that. And Iran is actually facing a lot of fire from the United States, a lot of sanctions from the United States. And this is what they do. Before you realize, they've invaded Iran. Okay, they actually try to bomb some of some of Iran's nuclear plants and stuff like that. These are all only going to attract the wrong eyes, okay, or invasion of Africa when it comes to stuff like that. Why don't you start with your natural resources that you have? Nobody's going to complain about coal plants apart from the CO2 emission in the atmosphere, and also destroying of the land to mine the coal and stuff like that. But Australia's been doing that. India has been doing that. China has been doing that. Look at all these countries now. Okay, big GDPs. Okay, but Africa want to leap, just jump the whole process into developing nuclear power, and you need to respect the process of development. Okay, you need to respect it. You can't just start feeding a baby lobsters. You can't just start feeding a baby, solids. You have to start with milk. Okay, and this is how development happens. So I don't know. So it looks like Africa's industrial development and revolution has been eliminated. Okay, and Africa is leaping forward to a very fast pace form of development, and in less than 20 years, okay, Paul Kagame's Rwanda is manufacturing mobile phones. Okay, in less than 20 years. So there's a whole lot happening. There's a whole lot happening on the African continent, and the Agenda 2063 is looking great. Okay, it's the only way forward for Africa. Unity, everybody knows it. Okay, everybody knows it, but Africans. Okay, Africa is the future. Everybody knows it. Population of Africa is going to be 4 billion people. Africa is going to be the biggest continent with the most amount of people. So the pressure is on African leaders to perform and not to create chaos with the growing population of Africans. Because if they don't do that, it's going to create chaos. It's going to create a civil war, or a revolution of epic proportions, okay, and distraction. And we don't want that. So African presidents are now trying their best to stop their coonery, okay, and stop signing wrong deals. So I'm very happy about what's happening with Africa and Russia, okay. So now the West and the East have to come and compete, okay. And we know for a fact that the West and the East are not in agreement with one another. So they both have to present the better deals for Africa, and in the end, Africa is going to win, okay. So yeah, badly, Niger boy say a lot of rivers. Yeah, that's right. Bad leadership, self-hate. We all hate each other. That's right, and that is what happened in Libya. The self-hate. Okay, waste disposal is the most dire factor when it comes to nuclear energy. Okay, it takes 10,000 years, 10,000 years to get rid of the spent, nuclear rods and nuclear waste. 10,000 years, which seems very impossible, right? So there's no way you can safely dispose of nuclear waste. So we don't want nuclear energy in Africa. Okay, it's foolish. It's really foolish. Okay. So yeah, it's gonna draw the wrong attention. Okay. You can't even fix your problems with your natural resources, and then you're gonna go to something else. Okay. I mean, nuclear energy. Um, it's beyond me. Okay, it's beyond me. So without much ado, I'm gonna go into the articles. Okay, I'm gonna go into the articles. Let's see. Let me share screen. So if you made it this far with me, okay, I'm Giordano. Subscribe to my channel. If you're new, thank you to my existing subscribers for maintaining the channel and helping the channel grow. Okay, we are over 600 subscribers now and fast approaching 700. So yeah, please share and invite your friends to come in and help the channel grow. So my first article here is from Russia TV. Okay, this article came first week of October. I had wanted to present it, but I got too busy. Okay, I got way too busy, so I couldn't present it, and there were other information to present. So I thought I'll just wait, okay, and see what more I can find instead of just jumping into one single article and talking about it. So I was doing this I was reading this article and did some research, and more articles came to my attention that I'll present to you. Okay, the reason why Africa is what it is right now. Okay, so this article came on the 6th of October 2019 from Russia TV. Okay, Libya was destroyed due to Western leaders' lust to continue exploiting Africa's riches. Okay, so Gaddafi spokesman. So every time we hear the news narrative, okay, it's always CNN, BBC, and all these foreign correspondents and whoever, whatnot, okay, telling Africa's story, but Africans do not tell their own stories. Okay, Africans never tell their own stories. Everybody is speaking for Africa, just as everybody is speaking for God, when God can never speak for himself or doesn't want to speak for himself. But everybody is happily speaking for God. This is what's going on. There's going to be miseducation, misconceptions all over, and ignorance. A grandeur of ignorance is going to be abound. So now we have information now from Gaddafi spokesman. Okay, and I'm glad he survived, because anybody who was actually tied with Gaddafi was actually murdered or forced to flee into exile. Okay, so I'm glad this guy survived. Okay, and we know what's actually happening in Libya right now. The Mustafa Haftar, okay, the Libyan rebel who wants to take over Tripoli, is actually a Gaddafi supporter and stuff like that. So next is to have a drink. Yeah, so Libya was destroyed due to Western leaders' lust to continue exploiting Africa's riches, Gaddafi spokesperson. So we see from the image here, let me blow this up a bit. We see from the image here, heavy smoke rises from Sirte city after NATO bombing of the positions of Gaddafi's loyalists in October 2011. So this is where Gaddafi's loyalists are coming from the east. A lot of them came from the Sudan, Chad, Mali, and stuff like that. So they're pushing towards Tripoli by this leader by the name Haftar, Colonel or General Haftar. But if it wasn't for the help of NATO, okay, and the UN, okay, Libya would be restored back to pre-Gaddafi days. But the West is continuing to make sure that Libya does not go back to being what it was. And another factor why Gaddafi was taken out was also because of primarily because of his ideology on socialism, how he wanted to infuse capitalism and socialism as a new form of government, which is called the Third Order. I think it's called the Third Order. And in socialism, okay, he wanted Africa's natural resources to belong to all African people. Okay, he wanted to nationalize every assets, okay, in Africa, and he was a champion for the African Union, by the way. Okay, he wanted to back all Africa's currency with gold. Okay, with gold, which African countries have in abundance. Okay, gold, Ghana, Mali, Nigeria now is mining gold, Cote d'Ivoire, Sudan, South Africa. Gold is everywhere in Africa, and gold is the true money. Even to date, okay, the value of gold is higher than anything. Okay, the value of gold is the same. Someone said that when you in the 70s, okay, the value of a car in the 70s was worth a kilogram of gold, and today the same kilogram of gold is worth a brand new car. Okay, so I mean the value of gold is the same. We know the richest man on the planet, or whoever lived, Mansa Musa, okay, had a ton of gold. So much that he crashed the gold economy by giving people free gold and stuff like that. So Muammar Gaddafi knew what he was actually doing, and the West had to stop him. Okay, they had to stop him. So we see what's happening. So yeah, back to the article. The 2011 NATO intervention in Libya, which helped topple the government of Muammar Gaddafi, was done to put an end to his attempts to stop foreign exploitation. Okay, this is very important. Pay attention. Okay, the NATO intervention in Libya, which helped topple the government of Muammar Gaddafi, was done to put an end to his attempts to stop foreign exploitation of the continent, the strongman's wartime spokesman told Russia Today. Okay, so the bombing campaign, which propped up rebel forces and ultimately led to this summary execution of Gaddafi, was justified by reports of various crimes of its government. And that's a lie. That was a media propaganda. I told you how Libya was actually doing very, very, very well. The reason why you had a little bit of a glitch, okay, was because the oil prices fell. And it is a problem when you have your entire country dependent on one source of income or revenue, which is just one natural resource. That is when in Ghana only depending on cocoa. And when it crashed the cocoa market in the 60s or the 70s, okay, Ghana's economy fell. Ghana's economy, as small as Ghana is, Ghana's economy was bigger than or equal to the United States at the time of Nkrumah, but it crashed the market because Ghana only depended on cocoa, and here Libya only depends on crude oil, which I don't bash them for because that's the only thing they have besides the people as well, population. Okay. Their only source of revenue was or is crude oil, which is 95% revenue for Libya. So Muammar Gaddafi make sure he maximized that. So now, currently, Libya's production is only, or revenue from crude oils is down to about 60%. So tell me, is Libya doing better now without Gaddafi, or is doing worse? So Libya is actually doing worse without Gaddafi. Okay, yeah. Despite all these things happening as well, with the civil war still going on, Black Africans being enslaved, and so on and so forth. So yeah. So the bombing campaign, which propped up rebel forces and ultimately led to the summary execution of Gaddafi, was justified by reports of various crimes of its government. And again, that's a propaganda. Those were later proven to be complete false and largely exaggerated. Okay. And believe it or not, Al Jazeera was also part of the propaganda. Okay. Just as we have the false news of Assad using chemical weapons on its people and in haste, okay, just so Donald Trump proves to the world that he's a warmonger and he's an idiot, okay, fired nukes into to Libya, to Syria, and a day later or a few hours later, realizing that oops, it was a false flag. It didn't even happen. It was staged. Someone probably recorded a video on their iPhone. Okay, and this is very sick. So it's really sort of like made Donald Trump sort of like bunker down a bit on his rhetoric and stuff like that, and in his zest for blood and stuff like that. So else we would have seen Iran being invaded. Okay, we would have seen it by now. 3 years in Donald Trump's office, and we haven't seen Iran invaded yet. Okay, something's going on. Something's going on. So yeah, we knew that this was false and largely exaggerated. So said Musa Ibrahim, who served as Gaddafi's spokesman at the time. In reality, NATO bombed Libya not to stop Viagra-assisted mass rapes of women by the government loyalists. Okay, that's false narrative as well. Gaddafi sought to break Western grip on Africa and was disposed for that, he said. Okay, this is the epic truth. Okay, this is the ultimate truth. Gaddafi sought to break Western grip on Africa and was disposed for that. Okay, so I have other articles that I'm going to show you for exactly what happened. And similarly, okay, same thing happened to Thomas Sankara. The same thing happened to Patrice Lumumba. The same thing happened to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Same thing happened to the president of Togo. I forgot his name now, who was also murdered the same way through a coup d'etat. Okay, so Gaddafi's Libya had several initiatives which were detrimental to Western goals in Africa, including creation of a new gold-backed currency. Okay, so I'm not all vague. Okay, it's in this article. Okay, so Gaddafi's Libya had several initiatives which were detrimental to Western goals in Africa, including creation of a new gold-backed currency, an African central bank, and a Pan-African military force. Okay, boom, right here. Okay, I'm not saying it. Okay, I'm not saying it. This is from a Gaddafi spokesperson. Ibrahim told Alti's going underground program. So Libya was destroyed like many other nations had been. Look at Libya now: killings, civilian conflict, tribal war, murder, terrorism, robbing of national wealth. What does it remind you of? Iraq, Syria, Afghanistan, Yemen, happening in Ghana, Nigeria, Congo. Ultimately, Congo is what's going on. It's the same story happening every time, stated Ibrahim. So you would be a fool if you think that the United States is your friend. Okay, all Africans who are quick to praise the United States, who are happy running to the United States. Okay, if you think, and here in Australia is no different. Okay, it's no different here. Okay, Australia is up in arms with the United States. Everywhere the US goes, Australia goes. Okay, I for a long time I thought, oh, thank God we're in Australia. Australia is not like the United States. Things might be better here. Okay, the police database by Washington Post is well into 680. Nearly 700 people have been murdered or killed by police this year. Okay, you won't get that here in Australia. You won't get that here in Japan. You won't get that, and even in Africa, you won't get that. Police going about murdering 700 people. You won't get that anywhere. Yet the US claims to have the greatest democracy on the planet. The US boasts of being the best country in the world. No, no, it's false. It's fallacy. Okay, it's fallacy. So yeah, I lost my train of thoughts there, but yeah. Inflaming local divisions to weaken a targeted nation is a tactics perfected over decades of colonialism and post-colonialism, he said. It's the management of crisis. What you do is you come to the context of a country and you introduce chaos through war, internal conflict, religious division, occupation, whatever means you have, and then keep the chaos going. You manage the crisis. Have you ever heard when the UN I think they have a department called conflict management. Does that ring a bell? I think conflict management is one of the UN's resolutions, conflict management. And the UN is heavily funded by the United States. About 30% funded. The US funds most of the the US funds most of the UN. So they always push the agenda. And when it comes to conflict management or crisis management, they in turn creates crisis. Because they're never going to do, because the US and the West are led by capitalists, opportunists that want to deprive other people, okay, and make a huge amount of wealth. They're not going to make you live a comfortable life and surpass them. So, I mean, this is what's happening, okay, in Africa. Not until Africans come together and unite and see the West for who they are, they're not your friends. You can do business with them, but don't bring them to your home. Don't air your dirty laundry in front of these people. They will use it to destroy you. Okay, don't let them in. They're the Trojan horses. Okay, they feed into the energy within the disgranting voices. Okay, in your countries, the dissidents in the countries, the US feeds them with propaganda. Okay, this is what's going on. So yeah, may Muammar Gaddafi rest in power. Okay, may he rest in power, and may he go join the ancestors, and may the ancestors come and help us. Okay, because we Africans are in a position where we are literally amongst wolves. Okay, who at any time would devour Africans easily. Okay, so this comes from RT. Okay, so I think there's a last quote here. Through management of chaos, you are able to make sure that this context is weak, subordinated to you. Okay, so this is what the West does, and this is their MO. Okay, this is what they go by. All right. So I have another article, Hillary's emails. Okay. Let's see. So what did you all think about this article? Farouk Aluya, Haftar sold Gaddafi out. He betrayed Gaddafi. They all did. They all did. Okay, they all did. Okay, for an entire nation to do that to Gaddafi. Okay, they all did. Okay, Haftar was no exception. Okay, Farouk, thanks for joining the stream. Uh, Haftar is no exception. Although Haftar was Gaddafi's loyalist, it was his main man as well. Okay, so it's Africans turn against one another. Okay, this unity, the self-hate in Africa. This is what's going on. But saying this also, okay, why do African leaders feel that they are the ultimate truth? Okay, why do African leaders feel like they're kings? And this is my fear for Paul Kagame. He's done so well in 20 years. Brought up um, Rwanda from civil war and turning into an economic giant to the point where um, Rwanda's small population, about 4 million people. Okay, what's the population of Rwanda? 12 million. I'm not too sure right now. A small population of people are able to have a GDP almost 2 billion US dollars. Okay, and a tech hub for the entire continent of Africa. Rwanda has its own airlines, factories, and whatnot. First country to manufacture mobile phones. Okay, he's done a great job. Paul Kagame has done a great job, but there are still some dissident and dissident voices in Rwanda that would like to see Paul Kagame go. And somebody like Dr. Mumbi always speaks ill of Paul Kagame, doesn't like Paul Kagame at all. Okay. Similarly, same thing happened to Libya. They're just gonna find the people within you who do not like Paul Kagame, and then they're gonna oust Paul Kagame the same way they did to Libya. So this is a time when you keep cycling your leaders. That's why I like Israel. Israel is, although I do not like Israel as a country and their policies and what they're doing to Africans and Palestinians and whatnot, but their system of government works. When I was a kid, I learned that the prime minister of the prime minister of I used to love geography when I was a kid. So I learned that the prime minister of Israel was what's his name? The name just skipped me now. Benjamin Netanyahu. Okay, that was like 20 years ago. Fast forward 2019, Benjamin Netanyahu is prime minister again. So I mean, like African presidents should learn. It's 2019. You should learn to maximize every opportunity that you get. You can always recycle your presidents because every leader has something that everyone can learn from. Don't turn your presidency into a monarchy, into a stool that you want to sit on to the day you'll die. And this is what happened to Muammar Gaddafi. He could have stepped down. He could have stepped down and let somebody else reign. Dr. Kwame Nkrumah could have stepped down and let somebody else take over. If things are not happening properly, he could come back. They could vote him back into power. Okay, this is what the constitution should be drafted to be like, right? Australia has the same. Prime ministers can be recycled. Okay, and it leads to progress. It leads to progress. So now, if Paul Kagame dies, all the innovations and everything dies with Paul Kagame. But I actually liked a statement where Paul Kagame was asked, and he said that he's training his people that when he's no longer there, the people are well equipped to continue his good work. And I believe him for that because Paul Kagame is a very, very strategic and a very, very tactical and very smart person. So I believe things in that sort will happen. And you should know that Paul Kagame is single-handedly pushing the African Union. All right. So yeah. Oh boy. Okay, so to my second article now. And later on, I'll share what happened to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah and stuff like that. So and Thomas Sankara and stuff like that. And yeah, Farouk Ola Yiwola. I like your thumbnail. It's that is Thomas Sankara. Okay. like Thomas Sankara. You know, another smart person who is in the likes of Paul Kagame is Jerry Rawlings. Okay, when he noticed that things were not going too well for Ghana, Jerry Rawlings took power through a military coup. Okay, controlled the country through a military coup, stepped down. Okay, and let the democratic process run. Okay, stage another coup d'etat when things were not going right, and sat on positional power for over 30 something years. And then when he realized that things were changing, okay, he re-strategized and put the country back into democratic process, which he was voted back into power. Okay, so Paul Kagame and Jerry Rawlings sort of resonate with me a lot, and Muammar Gaddafi and all these revolutionary leaders. Okay, but the only problem is don't stay in power for too long. When you stay in power for too long, okay, you will get corrupt, because power always corrupt. Even the most incorruptible person, the most just person, will be corrupted by power. All right, so back to my articles. My second article, okay, Hillary's emails reveal that Hillary's, let me blow this up. So Hillary's emails reveal NATO killed Gaddafi to stop Libyan creation of gold-backed currency. Okay, so we read that in the previous article. So Hillary's emails. So this article is from 2017, all right, 2017, during those Wikileaks and stuff like that, right? So Hillary's emails truly are the gifts that that keep on giving. While France led the proponents of the UN Security Council's sorry, I gotta blow this up. It's too small for me to read. Hillary's emails truly are the gifts that keep on giving. Okay, it's almost Christmas time, right? If you want a Christmas present, okay, look into Hillary's email, okay, or email server or whatever. You find a gift in there. While France led the proponents of the UN Security Council resolution that would create a no-fly zone in Libya, it claimed that its primary concern was that the protection of Libyan civilians, considering the current state of affairs alone. One must rethink the authenticity of this concern. As many conspiracy theorists will claim, one of the real reasons to go to Libya was Gaddafi's planned gold dinner. Okay, this is no conspiracy now. This is 2017. This article was written. It's 2019. This is no conspiracy. Okay, this is the truth. And I just read it to you from a Libyan spokesperson, from Gaddafi's spokesperson himself. This is what Gaddafi was going to do. Okay, do you know what a gold currency is going to do to the world market? Africa's got the gold. We've got the gold. We mine the gold. Okay, we mine the gold. If we want to trade with something, you have to pay us in gold. If you want to buy, if you want to, buy, say you want to buy cocoa, you have to pay us in gold. Okay, and the US know that they've got no gold. Okay, Australia have got some gold, but the gold reserve has been diminished since the 1800s. They mined it all. If you follow my channel, I went on that gold trail with Ned Kelly and stuff like that. Britain has no gold, although Britain has some gold that is stole from Africa and India. So all these people have no gold, or legitimate gold to their names. Okay, but Africa has a ton of gold. We have gold in the ground. We walk on gold. Africans walk on gold. All right. Our kings are bathed in gold, so much they can't even lift their arms. Mansa Musa, talk of Mansa Musa. All right. So yeah, so this is no conspiracy at all. This is fact. Okay, this is fact. So one of the 3,000 Hillary Clinton emails released by the State Department of New Year's Eve, on New Year's Eve, where real news is sent to die quietly. Okay, has revealed evidence that NATO's plot to overthrow Gaddafi was fueled by first their desire to squash the gold-backed African currency, and second, the Libyan oil reserves. Okay, so the Libyan oil reserve is the biggest in Africa, and also the gold currency. The email in question was sent to Secretary of Head of State or Secretary of State Hillary Clinton by her unofficial advisor Sidney Blumenthal, titled "France's Client and Gaddafi's Gold." Whoa, this is so spooky, isn't it? So, from Foreign Policy Journal, the email identifies French President Nicolas Sarkozy Sarkozy as leading the attack on Libya with 5 specific purposes in mind. And there's an article about him as well. To obtain Libyan oil, ensure French influence in the region, increase Sarkozy's reputation domestically, assert French military power, and to prevent Gaddafi's influence in what is considered Francophone Africa. So does this ring a bell? Okay, this rings a bell. And this article is from some research group. Okay, it's called Global Research. Okay, Global Research. Okay. So most outstanding is the lengthy section delineating the huge threat that Gaddafi's gold and silver reserves are estimated at 143 tons of gold and a similar amount in silver posed to French franc CFA circulating as a prime African currency. So we know by January 1st next year, okay, which is a little no more than 3 months from now, or 2 months from now, okay, the West Africa is going to implement the eco currency, which will eventually do away with the CFA franc. Okay, and this, okay, we see the presence of France. Okay, but this time, okay, the whole world is watching. Africa is watching. Africa's children are watching. The diaspora is watching. Everybody's watching. Okay, all the African heads of states are, watching. Okay, and we do have a president in office by the name Emmanuel Macron, okay, who is not like his predecessors who will not ensure what happened to Gaddafi take place. Okay, he rather wants a better relationship with Africa. So we see these things are happening. Okay, it's better for France to be in a better relationship with Africa than being a colonizer to Africa. So Macron is going to see, wants to use other means, to relate to Africa other than assert France's rule on Africa, okay, or Francophone Africa, or whatever. So, and here is this section of the email proving that NATO had ulterior motives for destroying Libya. So, update: the link has since been killed. Okay, but here's the web caching. Okay, so I've left the article in the description box so you can check it out yourself. Okay. This gold was accumulated prior to the current rebellion and was intended to be used to establish a Pan-African currency based on the Libyan golden dinar. This plan was designed to provide the Francophone African countries with an alternative to the French franc, or the CFA. Source comment: according to the knowledgeable individuals, this quantity of gold and silver is valued at more than 7 billion. French intelligence officers discovered this plan shortly after the current rebellion began, and this was one of the factors that influenced President Nicolas Sarkozy's decision to commit France to attack on Libya. According to these individuals, Sarkozy's plans are driven by the following issues: a desire to gain a greater share of Libya. So a desire to gain a greater share of Libya oil production, increase French influence in North Africa, improve his internal political situation in France, provide the French military with an opportunity to reassert its position in the world, addressed the concern of his advisors over Gaddafi's long-term plans to supplant France as the dominant power in Francophone Africa. This is nothing short of colonization or colonialism. It's not even neo-colonialism. It's colonialism itself. France's colonialism has never left Africa. So here's the link. Okay, you can check it out yourself. Okay, this is the email. Okay, you can see it right here. It's US unclassified. Okay, it's unclassified because it's been leaked. Okay, it's been leaked. It would have been classified until about 50 years before we will see the light of this. Okay, but it's been leaked. Okay, thanks to the good old internet. Thanks to the good old what's his name? Bloody Edward Snowden. So yeah, from SB whatever. Okay, sent April 2nd, 2011. Okay, just at the time Gaddafi was ousted. So subject is France's clients and Q's gold. So we all know the Q is Gaddafi. So another way of spelling Gaddafi is with a Q. Okay. So yeah, this is going on. Okay, check it out for yourself. So this is a reply from Hillary. Okay, a high-ranking official on the National Libyan Council states that factions have developed within it. In part, this reflects the cultivation by France, in particular of clients among the rebels. Evidence is before you. So it's France that's cultivating these divisions in Libya, in France, okay? In Libya. The rebels were cultivated by France. France propaganda, okay? General Abdel Fattah Younis is the leading figure closest to the French, who are believed to have made payments of an unknown amount to him. Younis has, and I think he's been investigated for doing that, okay, fraud and stuff like that. So we see the outcome of it. I haven't followed it, but yeah. So Younis has told others on the NLC that the French have promised they will provide military trainers and arms. So it was France that was training the rebels to take down Gaddafi. So far the men, and she can't even write properly. Like, that was meant to be part of this paragraph. How educated is she? She's an idiot. So far, the men and material have not made an appearance. I mean, the English is very terrible as well. Instead, a few risk assessment analysts, okay, in quotes, wielding clipboards have come and gone. Jabril, Joel, and others are impatient. It's very difficult reading this lady's English, but yeah. It is understood that France has clear economic interest at stake. Sarkozy's occasional emissary, the intellectual self-promoter Bernard Henry Levy, is considered by those in the NLC who have dealt with him as a semi-useful, semi-joke figure. Rumors swept the NLC to upper echelon this week that Gaddafi may be dead or may be not. Gaddafi has nearly bottomless financial resources to continue indefinitely, according to the latest reports we have received. So going on April 2nd, 2011, sources with access to advisors to Sultan al-Islam Gaddafi stated in strictest confidence that while the freezing of Libya's foreign bank accounts present Muammar Gaddafi with serious challenges, and it froze over $250 million, I think. And this is what the West is known for doing. They'll freeze your assets, and this is why it's a problem for African heads of state to be banking with the West. And we have Ibrahim Babangida, and all these presidents having what's his name, Mobutu Sese Seko, all these people having bank accounts, offshore bank accounts overseas, and they can freeze your bank accounts anytime, and you won't have a cent back. All right, whilst they're making a whole lot of interest on this money. All right, so I'll move on. So where was I? Okay, on April 2nd, 2011, sources with access to advisors to Salt al-Islam Gaddafi stated in strictest confidence that while the freezing of Libya's foreign bank accounts presents Muammar Gaddafi with serious challenges, his ability to equip and maintain his armed forces and intelligence services remains intact. According to sensitive information available to these individuals, Gaddafi's government holds 143 tons of gold and a similar amount in silver during late March. So they invaded Libya so they could steal this amount of gold. We know what's going on, okay? And a similar amount in silver. During late March 2011, these stocks were moved to Sabha. Oh, they've been moved, okay, to Sabha, so southwest in the direction of Libyan border with Niger and Chad, okay, taken from the vault of the Libyan central bank in Tripoli. So I mean, this is what's happening, right? The same thing that they did in Iraq. They were looking for Saddam Hussein's vault. They were looking for the gold that Saddam Hussein had, right? They looted all the gold. They took it all away. This gold was accumulated prior to the current rebellion and was intended to be used to establish Pan-African currency based on the Libyan golden dinar. Okay, so this is not a hoax, family. This is not a hoax. This was in Hillary's email. I'm not kidding you. This is Hillary Clinton's email. Okay, the U.S. Department of State case. Department of State. Okay, to the Secretary of State, Hillary. And this is for Hillary from Sid. Okay, so okay, so I take this again. The gold was accumulated prior to the current rebellion and was intended to be used to establish a Pan-African currency based on the Libyan golden dinar. This plan was designed to provide the Francophone African countries with an alternative to the French franc. Okay, so source comment, according to the knowledge individuals, this quantity of gold and silver is valued at blah, 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 $7 billion, and that, which I read before. So ergo, as soon as French intel discovered Gaddafi's dinner plans, they decided to spearhead the campaign against him, having accumulated enough good reasons to take over. Sadly, Gaddafi had earlier warned Europe in a prophetic phone conversation with Blair that his fall would prompt the rise of Islamic extremism in the West, and rightfully so, right? The fall of Libya led to the, and we know that it was Obama that inspired the Arab Spring, the so-called Arab Spring or Arab Rebellion. It was Obama that did that. Obama said Gaddafi must go, Hussein Mubarak must go, and all these people must go, right? Okay, it was Assad must go. It was Obama. Okay, and the most sickening thing Hillary said, okay, was we came, we saw, he died, and he laughed about it. Hillary laughed about it. Okay, in reference to Gaddafi. We came, we saw, he died. Ha 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 ha. This is Hillary. Okay, laughing at the death and the demise of somebody, a human being, who was brutally murdered. For doing what? Uplifting his own people. Gaddafi does not deserve to die like he did. Right. So it's a big shame. Okay, it's a big shame, very big shame. So ergo, as soon as French intel discovered Gaddafi's dinner plans, they decided to spearhead the campaign against him, having accumulated enough good reasons to take over. Sadly, Gaddafi had earlier warned Europe in a prophetic phone conversation with Blair that this fall would prompt the rise of Islamic extremism, and this is what we're seeing now. Okay, a warning that would go unheeded. What's a few lives in France and Libya if the larger goal lines the pockets of politicians and the elite so much better after all. Okay, and all these politicians, the politicians are aristocrats and rich people. Okay, that determine how everyday people should live their life. Okay, how does this make sense in context of democracy? How does this make sense when you have Hillary and the husband are billionaires? They are billionaires. They are very filthy rich, plus all their funds and their donations and whatnot. They're billionaires. Their children are set for life for a couple of 100 years, even 1,000 years. They'll be rich forever. Okay, so I mean, this all has to boil down to education. Education. So everyone has to be very, very educated. All right, everyone has to be very, very educated. So yeah, check out Hillary's email. Okay, in the description box. Okay, you can check it out. You read it for yourself. Okay, so I'll quickly move on to another article. I'm quickly running out of time. Excuse. I'm very, very fast running out of time. Okay. So I have another article, okay, another reason why. So this article came in 2018. Hillary's email came in 2017. So every year new evidence is compounding and we're seeing all this happening. So Farouk, what did you say? DC Bright 95, thanks for joining the stream. Chief, what about his anti-African views? Gaddafi has anti-African views. Gaddafi has no anti-African views, friend. Gaddafi stated in his book that he wrote down. Okay, he did. Okay, in because of Islam and his Gaddafi's where he placed himself. Okay, to please his like I stated before, the history of Libya, the Ottoman Turks control basically the wealth of Libya. Blah blah blah. They assert themselves in Libya and control greater power in Libya. So Gaddafi was trying to please them, but towards the end of Gaddafi's life, Gaddafi actually became a Pan-African. Gaddafi actually saw his Libyan country as an Arab republic, but towards the end of Gaddafi's tenure, okay, he realized himself as a black man. Gaddafi actually realized himself as a black man, and this is why I'm saying that. Is this the reason why they actually killed Gaddafi like a dog? They killed him, and they referred to the black Libyans as Libyan dogs. Okay, Libyan dogs. There's a town called Tahaga or whatever. They raided that town. That town was full of black Libyans. They raided and murdered and basically drove everybody out of the city. Okay, and those who were captured were put in cages. All right, and I saw documentaries on this. It was very, very sick. So Gaddafi, maybe he didn't have anti-African views, but he wasn't really for Africa as a Pan-African voice as he had towards the end of his life, like the last decades of his life. He was very, very heavily Pan-African. We saw him with the president of Ghana at the time, Jerry John Rawlings. Gaddafi was you saw him with, you see when you Google Gaddafi's image, you see him wearing the African shirt. Okay, he was pro-African. Okay, towards the end of his life, and that's what he needs to be remembered for, and his plans. Okay, so just as we see in the West, if you are cooning, okay, if you're not doing anything for black people in the United States, okay, they'll keep you in power. They'll keep you in power. But the moment you start speaking against white supremacy and you start implementing ways to remove yourself or better yourself and destroy white supremacy, they'll come for you. They'll come for you. Nkrumah did the same thing. Nkrumah was doing really well for Ghana. Nkrumah was doing really well for Ghana with the British, the Americans. But the moment he started going socialism, the moment he started going towards so-called communism, towards the Russian, Chinese approach, They came for Nkrumah. Okay, they came for Thomas Sankara. They will come for you. The moment you are moving away from the West, they will come for you. So this is why we love Russia in Africa. Okay, to keep the power balance. Okay, so the United States will not go and attack an assets that belongs to Russia. They're asking for war. This is why they couldn't do what they wanted to do in Syria, because Syria was backed by Russia. And every African country needs to learn from that if they haven't learned from that already. All right, so sorry about my tangent there, but yeah. One thing also Gaddafi stated, that the future of this world, okay, this is a prophecy of Gaddafi, okay, the future of the world, okay. Gaddafi stated that the black people will rule the earth. Okay, this is Gaddafi's statement. Okay, this is one prophecy that would come true. Okay, so does that mean Gaddafi a prophet now? Is Gaddafi a prophet now? Okay, Africa is the future. Everyone sees it. Okay, black people will rule Africa. Will rule the world. Okay, so yeah, this is actually Gaddafi, and he actually has this in his book called the Green Book, Gaddafi's Green Book, and he made his book being studied in universities, in schools, even on state television. They have to read a quote from Gaddafi's Green Book, and it was a perfect read. If you read it, it is really good. Okay, so yeah. Let me go on to my other article. I do not have enough time now. So here, another reason why imperialism wanted Libya overthrown. Okay. So this is another one by Global Research. Okay, so I'll share this. So this is another one from Global Research. Okay, another reason why imperialism wanted Libya overthrown. Okay, former French President Nicolas Sarkozy detained for questioning over Gaddafi loan. So this is what I was saying, that these people are being under fire now. They're being under investigation. Okay. So featured image, okay, in the left hand corner is Libya leader Colonel Muammar Gaddafi, along with former French President Nicolas Sarkozy. Okay, so these people are shady as hell, shady as hell. Okay, Barack Obama shook Muammar Gaddafi's hands, gave him a hug and a kiss, and then you turn around and praise the death of Muammar Gaddafi. This is sick. This is sick. This is one reason why I do not, as much as we praise Barack Obama as the son of Africa, is the enemy within. Definitely the enemy within. So yeah. So 7 years ago this month, this article on March 21st, 2018. Okay, so in context, okay, 7 years ago this month, the travesty of this it just makes me want to puke. The travesty is so sickening, right? So sickening. So 7 years ago this month, beginning on March 19, 2011, the United States Pentagon and NATO began a massive bombing campaign against the North African state of Libya. For 7 months, the warplanes flew tents. Imagine 7 months being bombarded. 7 months. 7 months being bombarded by United States. Okay, this is so sick. For 7 months, the warplanes flew tens of thousands of sorties over Libya at the time, with the most prosperous state in Africa. The most prosperous state in Africa in 2011. Okay, Libya was the most prosperous state in Africa. In the same year, Ghana was going to move on to start drilling oil, which spared Ghana's economy to 4 billion US dollars. No, 45 billion US dollars. The oil revenue has spurred Ghana's economy to 40, and subsequently since then, Africa, in the last decade, you see Africa's economy rise. Okay, but before that, okay, Libya was the most prosperous state in Africa. So nearly 10,000 bombs were reportedly dropped inside the country, resulting in an estimated 50,000 to 100,000 dead. Okay, many more injuries and dislocation of several million people. So in other words, creating refugees. On October 20, and more people would have died since then. More people would have died since then. When you factor in all the the people crossing the Mediterranean and stuff, trying to make their way to Europe and stuff like that, crossing the desert and stuff like that. So on October 20, longtime Libyan leader Colonel Muammar Gaddafi was driving in a convoy leaving his home area of Sirte, okay, when the vehicles were struck. Gaddafi was later captured and brutally executed by counter-revolutionary forces, which were led, armed, and financed by the US, NATO, okay, and its allies. Okay, and we know this is France. France did that. Okay, France played an instrumental role in the destruction of Libya as a nation state. The then President Nicolas Sarkozy praised the overthrow of the Jamahiriya political system, which is a political system which deals with socialism. Okay. So Jamahiriya means the people. Okay, so it's government by the people. So the West claims that democracy means government by the people for the people. But is it really government for the people by the people? And this is outlined in Gaddafi's Green Book. Okay, I'll see if I can extract a few from it before I head off. Okay, so it deals with African system of leadership or rulership coupled with socialism, which is since the dawn of time has been the way the African system of governance. Okay, socialism. And the execution of Gaddafi. Okay, so yeah, so Nicolas Sarkozy praised that, and now he's under investigation. I haven't followed what happened to him yet, but I will in due course. So all of the imperialist states and their cohorts told the international community that the revolution in Libya would lead to an era of democracy and prosperity, and we know this is a lie. Okay, what's happening in Libya currently is very, very far, very, very different to anything called democracy and prosperity. Okay, Libya has gone from 100 to 0 real quick. Okay, these are lies. You cannot trust the devil to tell you the truth. You cannot trust the devil to tell you the truth. And sadly, this is what Africans are doing. Africans are gambling with their lives, trusting the United States, the West. Okay, Africans are gambling with their future. Okay, these proclamations could not have been further from the truth. Okay, Sarkozy wanted the Libyan state eviscerated and Gaddafi assassinated because he had borrowed millions of dollars from the African leader in 2007. So actually, Sarkozy actually borrowed money from Gaddafi. See, this is shady, man. This is shady as hell. No wonder. Look at him. He looks shady as hell. Look at him. So shady. So if you owe me money, I'll just come and eliminate you so I don't have to pay you back. Wow. Rumors and later documented proof surfaced to substantiate these claims. Okay. On March 20th, people around the globe awoke to the news reports that Sarkozy was in custody and being questioned over financial irregularities involving the Libyan state under Gaddafi. During the period in question, Libya was a leading country within the African Union. Okay. Where an African Union was being pushed heavily by Muammar Gaddafi. So where is the anti-African rhetoric towards Muammar Gaddafi? So we know Muammar Gaddafi's grandparents were actually from Chad, were actually black. All right, where the basis of the where the basis for the where the basis for the revitalized Organization of the African Unity (OAU), founded in May 1963, realized its birth. Okay, the Sirte declarations of the 1999 led to the creation of the AU in 2002, shifting the focus of the continental body, mandating deliberations on the development of viable institutions encompassing more meaningful objectives such as economic integration and regional security. The spotlight turned on Sarkozy raises again the question of the genocidal war against Libya during 2011 and the subsequent underdevelopment, instability, and improvement of the country and its implications for North and West Africa, along with the continent as a whole. Today, Libya is a source of terrorism, enslavement, and internecine conflict, where there are at least three sources of purported authority. Okay, so Libya is divided into three factions at the moment. Despite the efforts of the United Nations Security Council to form a government of national accord, GNA, the unity of the country has remained elusive. UNSC bears responsibility for the Libyan crisis due to the fact that resolutions 1970 and 1973 provide a pseudo-legal rationale for the blanket bombing and ground operations and into 2011 imperialist war and its brutal aftermath. So I'm glad they bear responsibility for it. Okay, the UN Security Council bears responsibility for it. You know, there's more to bearing responsibility. Go fix things. Okay, fix it. All right. Bearing responsibility doesn't fix anything. Go fix the problem there. All right. So read more. The imperialist destruction of Libya, impasse at the 5th European Union African Summit. So we talked about that. According to the article published by France 24, okay, agents of France's Office for anti-corruption and fiscal and financial infractions are questioning Sarkozy in the Paris suburb of Nanterre, where he has been detained since Tuesday, March 20th morning. It is the first time authorities have questioned Sarkozy in connection with this dossier. Okay, they can keep the 63-year-old conservative former head of state in custody for up to 48 hours, after which he could be released without charge, placed under formal investigation, or asked to reappear at the later date. So later I'm going to present to you information regarding that. Okay. So the imperialist camp and neo-colonial rule in Africa. So it's a bit of read. Okay. So I've already presented, evidence here. Okay. Information why Gaddafi was taken out and by people's greed. Okay. People's strategies to evade, debt and stuff like that. That's why Gaddafi had to go. Okay. So the article doing that. Okay, the research led me to this article. Let's see. I have another article here that I'll present before I head off. I do have only 10 minutes. Okay, before I scoot. I'm sorry, I'm suffering allergy. It's spring now, so hay fever time. My ears are itchy, my eyes are itchy, my nose is itchy. So bear with me. Okay. So this latest article: how an Ivorian president Houphouët-Boigny aided the West to oust Nkrumah, Sankara. Okay. So if you made it this far, this is the icing on the cake here. Okay, this is the icing on the cake. Okay, this is by Face of Africa. Okay, by Michael Eli Dokosi. Okay, this is the president Felix Houphouët-Boigny. Okay, trip down memory lane. Okay, speaking to a mass here. Okay, so Felix Houphouët-Boigny, Ivory Coast's first president, is a man who divides opinion even in death. Okay, unlike Africa's beloved freedom fighters such as Nkrumah, Nyerere, Sekou Toure, and Patrice Lumumba. Houphouët-Boigny is often lumped together with others who are deemed to have let down their citizens and decelerated the advancement of their state. These individuals include Akwesi Afrifa, Mobutu Sese Seko, J.B. Dankwa, Charles Taylor, Idi Amin, K.A. Buzia, and Yoweri Museveni. And sadly, Yoweri Museveni is still in power. Okay, Museveni is still in power over nearly 40 years, still in power. The others are Omar Bongo, Nyasimbe Eyadema, Teodoro Obiang Nguema, Mbasogo, and Malisi Zenewi. I know Teodoro Obiang Nguema is still alive. Okay, is still president or leader. So more about these, you can check that out later. So Houphouët-Boigny was born October 18th, 1905, becoming president in 1960 and ruling for more than 30 years till he died on December 7th, 1993, which also led to the Ivorian Civil War and stuff like that. Prior to being president, he served as a medical aide to a doctor, union leader, and planter. Houphouët-Boigny's coziness to the French. Okay, this is a coon right here. If you're looking for a coon, okay, here he is. Okay, the African who colonized the country has been a source of discontentment for many Africans. Okay. So perhaps him serving in the French Parliament and holding several ministerial positions within the French government, thanks to the assimilation policy, might have been his source of grooming in protecting French interests, even against the Ivorian people and other African states. Okay, so the enemy within, okay, the African. Explo and Nani Kofi observes, as early as 1959, Houphouët-Boigny expelled his deputy Jean-Baptiste Moquet for leading a group of people within Boigny's party and government to openly oppose the government's francophone policies. He was accused of plotting to kill Boigny through the use of voodoo. This is bullshit. This is bullshit. Okay, this is irrelevant and bullshit. Okay, in 1993, there were more than 100 secret trials which Moquet and others like Ernest Boka, head of the Supreme Court, were implicated. Okay, this is him, Houphouët-Boigny. Okay, this is him. Okay, so Nani Kofi continues. Houphouët-Boigny had a poor relationship with governments in West Africa, who were not the favorite of the West. Okay, so we know the ECO has actually brought all West African countries and governments together. So it's glory days now for us. Okay, for West African countries, we're seeing unity now in West Africa. So it's the only way forward, right? Houphouët is alleged to have supported rebels and plotters against the regimes of Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana, Sekou Toure in Guinea, and Patrice Lumumba in the present-day DRC. So Nani Kofi explains further, he's also associated with the coup against pro-Soviet Mathieu in Benin in 1977. He supported Jonas Savimbi's UNITA when the ruling government in Angola was pro-Soviet. And UNITA was the favorite of the USA in Angola. So yeah, it's believed that he worked closely with Blair Compaoré in the overthrow of Thomas Sankara in Burkina Faso. He influenced French backing for Charles Taylor's rebel forces in Liberia. Okay, so the list goes on and on and on about this man here. Okay, I do not have time to read all of it to you, but this man here is a real devil. Okay, and again, the article is in the description box. Okay, so I brought this up to show you how the enemy within. Okay, it's not about skin color. It's not about who is African, who is not. Okay, it's beyond that. Okay, it's all about who is for you and who is not for you, who is willing to do the bidding of the enemy. Okay, and do things detrimental to their own people. Okay, this is what's it all about. It's capitalism. Okay, and this man here is a shame. Okay, this man here is a shame. All right. Okay, it's a shame, and you should know what all that happened in West Africa, in Africa during the independence movement was done by Africans, and the number one African right here is by the name Houphouët-Boigny. Okay, so that's him. If you're looking for an African, okay, that led to the destruction of Africa, and the reason why Africa is in the position that it is, how why Africa has the same that relationship with France and stuff like that, is because of this man here and a few others. Okay, there's a few others. I do not have time to present that to you, but in my last 2 minutes, okay, I will present to you. I'll show you something from Wikipedia about Gaddafi's Green Book. Okay, so the Green Book, Gaddafi's Green Book, is a short book setting out the political philosophy of Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi. The book was first published in 1975. It was intended to be read by all people. It is said to have inspired in part by the Little Red Book, quotations from Chairman Mao. Both were widely distributed, both inside and outside the country of origin, and written in simple, understandable style with many memorable slogans. An English translation was issued by Libyan People's Committee. Bilingual English Arabic edition was issued in London by Martin Brine and O'Keefe in 1976. During the Libyan civil war, copies of the book were burned. Okay, so we know the reason why this book was burned, because it outlined a strategy for Africans to govern themselves and to basically detach themselves from the West. That's why they burned this book. Okay, the headquarters for the Green Book was burned. Okay, it was burned as well. They didn't want to see this, but this book is readily available. You can read it to inspire yourselves. Okay, to educate yourselves. Okay, but you can find a ton of information about this on the internet in Google as well. So I'll skip forward. Okay, so we know Muammar Gaddafi introduced this into the system. Okay, kids are meant to learn from this book. This book was institutionalized through the higher education, the universities and stuff like that. Everybody has to read it. Okay, the state news, okay, televisions have to read a quote from it every day. So I mean, it was basically like a Bible for Libya, and Libya succeeded. Okay, Libya was a successful country. Uh, so 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 the views. I'll say a little bit about the views. So the Green Book rejects both capitalism and communism, and as well as representative democracy. Instead, it proposes a type of direct democracy overseen by a General People's Committee, which allows direct political participation for all adult citizens. The book states that freedom of expression is the natural right of every person, even if they choose to behave irrationally to express his or her insanity. The Green Book states the freedom of speech is based upon public ownership of book publishers, newspapers, television, and radio stations on the grounds of private ownership would be undemocratic. Okay, so basically, it's the book is anti-democracy, is anti-West. Okay, it's for socialism, and if you know socialism, okay, socialism is government for the people, by the people, and that it's a policy of or a style of government that ensures that the wealth of the country, the assets of the country belongs to the people. Okay, that is socialism, basically. Not the wealth of the country belongs to a select group of aristocrats and individuals. Okay, so yeah. So Gaddafi also states that capitalism by the West actually creates the new slaves. Okay, so you go to work, you get paid what, $25 an hour. The minimum wage in the United States is $15 an hour. Oh no, hang on, $8 an hour. Okay, you get paid $8 an hour. Okay, whereas the CEO goes home with what, $20 million a year. $20 million a year. So I mean, this is very, very sick, right? This is very, very sick. So in summary, okay, Gaddafi's instrument of government was the was it Jamaria, okay, which means government of the people. The basic features of representative democracy is the parliament or assembly. Once elected members usurp the authority of their constituents for their term of service. Okay, but his problem was that he stayed in power for too long. So he didn't have a term of service. He just stayed in power for too long, way too long. Political parties themselves also usurp the people's authority and focus on maintaining power instead of improving society for all, the proper object of government. Whereas political parties are susceptible to corruption. So Gaddafi didn't like political parties. Okay, Nkrumah was like that as well. Nkrumah instituted a one-party system, and it's a key component of socialist governments. China and all of these people are the same. Plebiscite class. The Green Book outlines that. Another time I'll come in and I'll read that properly. You believe it or not, okay, if you made it this far, okay, if you made it this far, believe it or not, okay, in the Gaddafi's Green Book, he actually has housing. Okay, he stated a rental of housing, for example, is exploitation and infringes the freedom of the renter. Okay, so on and on and on. Gaddafi doesn't believe in making money from rental properties, so on and so forth. So I take lessons from this book. I bought my own house. Okay, I have my own property. I have my own house. Okay, I've been renting a house for a while. Okay, I'm paying somebody else's mortgage. I woke up one day, I'm like, no, I'm gonna build my own house and pay my own mortgage and create my own wealth instead of making somebody else rich. You are basically a bitch to that person. You're basically a slave to that person. Okay, and it's just education. You just have to be educated enough. Okay, there was a part of the Green Book where he stated that, I think part 3, chapter 25, part 3, chapter 25. Gaddafi stated that black people will prevail in the world. Okay, so the notion that Gaddafi was anti-black is a lie. The notion that North Africans are Arabs and anti-black is a lie. Okay, it's a myth. Okay, black people. This is according to Gaddafi. Okay, in his book. Okay, part 3, chapter 25. Black people are poised to dominate the human population because their culture includes polygamy and shuns birth control, and because they live in a climate which is continuously hot, with the result that work is less important for them than in other cultures. So, in the West, okay, it's not because they can't have children. It's not because Australia, the birth rate in Australia is 1.8. The birth rate in Europe is 1.2. In the United States, it is very, very low. It's only because okay, I'll stop sharing now. I've come to the end of my article. Okay, it's only because people are busy working. Okay, everybody's busy. Everybody's so busy working. Okay, nobody has time to have intimacy with their partners and have children. So this is what's going on. Okay, it's not because they can't have children. They just can't afford to have children. Having children is going to disrupt their everyday life. I mean, how do you go to work to pay off your mortgage? How do you go to work to afford your to pay for your affordable to pay for your exorbitant lifestyle, extravagant lifestyle? How do you travel? How do you go? I've been to Japan 3 times. Okay, I've been to Korea. I've traveled a lot. Okay, I've traveled a lot. How can I afford traveling and seeing the world with 10 kids? I'm gonna have to pay for all of them. If I have to go to a theme and amusement park, I have to pay for all 10 children. I can afford it. I can afford it. But in Africa, we don't have this kind of commotion happening. We don't have this kind of chaos. Okay, so the African only knows to feed himself and house his children. So in fact, okay, the African has more time to procreate, have more children than the West. So it's gotten to a point where the West can never catch up. Okay, their population is in decline. The biggest population are over 60 years old. They can't have children anymore. And Africa's biggest population are 25, between the age of from birth to 25 years old. Over 60-70% of Africa's population is under 25 years old. So we see Africa's population is going to skyrocket from now to the year 2100, okay, to about 4 billion to 4.5 billion people. Okay, so I mean it's coming. Okay, Africa is the future. So Gaddafi's predictions will come true. Okay, may Gaddafi rest in power. Okay, may Hillary Clinton burn in hell. Okay, may Barack Obama, if he doesn't repent and do anything meaningful for Black people, that apart from promoting his gay agenda and stuff like that, may he also burn in hell. Okay, anybody who is against, the rise of Africa, okay, may they all burn in hell. Okay, Babylon will always burn in hell and fall. All right, Black African power. Okay, until next time, family. All right, stay safe. Okay, we love one another. Okay, Pan Africanism. Okay, the African flag is right behind me. Okay, Pan African flag is right behind me. Okay, love one another. Okay, you know, in unity. Okay, we will survive. Okay, if we divide ourselves, we will fall. Okay, it's only through unity. Love yourselves. Okay, never again should we see what happened to Muammar Gaddafi happen again on the African continent. All right, family. Okay, peace. Until next time. Okay, stay united. One love. All right, leave me a comment. Okay, if you made it this far, leave me a comment and tell me how you feel about this information. And hopefully, I'll find some time again to come possibly tomorrow and talk more on these issues. Okay, until next time, family. Okay, peace. Thank you all, Farouk, Oliwai, Wola. Thank you, family. Thank you for your contribution. Naja boy, thank you. Okay. What was your comment? Democracy is not meant for every country. Just because it works in the West doesn't mean it works in Africa. Okay. What do you think of the African diaspora and can do to make changes, stop exploitation of Africa? Farouk Ola Yuola. What the African diaspora can do is invest in Africa. That's it. You can't stop the West from doing what they do. You can't tell the devil not to do what he does. You can't tell the devil to stop being evil. You can't. What you can do for yourself is to build for yourself. So what the African diaspora in the West can do is go build Africa. That's it. And that's what I'm doing myself. I can enjoy. Why can't you have dual citizenship? I can enjoy my life here in Australia at the same time contribute to Africa. I can do that. I can do both. Okay, Dynast always says, but Black people can ride bike and chew gum at the same time. Why can't you do the same? Why can't you do both? So yeah, everyone is capable of doing something meaningful. So yeah. All right, until next time, family. All right, peace.